long story short, you're a renowned astrologer, author. I mean, I don't know, philosopher. You're Nostradamus Prophecies man. So I am so honored that you're on my show. And why don't you tell me a little bit how you got into astrology and tell everybody your website and all that stuff first, if you'd like. So.
Okay, well, first off, my website is HOGUEProphecy.com. That's HOGUEPROPHECY.com. And my background with astrology is rather unusual. I mean, I've been studying Nostradamus for over 30 years. And in studying him, I was taken on a strange journey into this magnificently sloppy astrologer that, though sometimes he would calculate without, of course, the aid of a lot of things that we have to make it much easier, but he would calculate, sometimes miscalculate signs. Astrologers used to get on his case about that. Not always, but sometimes that would happen. Of course, they got on his case a lot because he was very famous. Of course, they didn't want to confront the reason why he was very famous, and that is despite the fact that he kind of followed his own rules, a dyslexic form of astrology. The fact is that whatever he was doing, whatever he interpreted, even if it was the wrong planet, that's what happened. So I started going deep into that and realizing that astrology was just another one of the divination buttons or keys that Nostradamus used to get into the zone of your divination. And isn't that where we're supposed to be going? I mean, a lot of astrologers savage me for my astrology because I'm a student of this sloppy astrologer. And but I just say to them what Nostradamus probably said to people of his own time. Why then, how I ever say it, the point is, if I make a prediction, does it come true or not?
Yeah.
Or does it have a lot of, what's the track record? Sometimes I think astrologers get caught up in the technique
Yep.
and forget it's like a ballerina who's all technique and no soul. It's like, and then the technical people can't stand me, which I actually love. If they started loving me, I think there was something wrong with one.
That's why I love you, because I'm untechnical.
As we both discovered in the attempt to try to get this in our Zooming and Skyping.
God.
But anyway, so I use astrology similarly to Nostradamus. I'll have people say, well, you didn't talk about how he was born on an eclipse. Oh, you didn't do his progressed charts. Oh, but I don't need to do that. Unless I do need to do that. It flows. I do whatever existence in the zone tells me. And what happens with this process is that I can look at a birth chart. And even when I do my political astrology, I look at a birth chart, I look at the birth charts of nations, I start calculating, looking the interactions, and then things drop right in. And I just follow that. I surrender to it. It's not me playing the great control freak trying to make the stars speak to me.
Right.
I think a lot of astrologer egos have a problem with. So I use this just like I use a lot of different divination techniques. But frankly, I actually, the one that I use the most is I just simply stop. I just simply stop and wait. I mean, if anything, meditation, which is my path in life, the art of self and the science of self-observation, is what puts me into a kind of a state of innocent intelligence,
Right.
where I take all this objective work that I do to balance, and then I let it all go and let it all fall where it wants to go, and it guides me. And so that's what I do. And I am an astrologer, like anything else in prophecy, an innocent. So, and that's why I can look at Trump. The other thing is, when I look at politics, which I do a lot of, and religion.
Real quick, I should say that you've predicted almost every every election for the past 13 years, right? You've had them all right. And in my opinion, you had the Trump one right. You said it. You
Well,
totally said it.
what I said.
You're hard on yourself on that. You had it right.
Well, the thing is that happens with it is that I've been predicting the popular vote of every person who won the popular vote since 1968. I've done it for over like 42 years or something. I have been 13-0. I said Hillary Clinton would win the popular vote. As far as the purview of my prophecy, I've come to understand, because I'm also, like all of you, trying to understand what this prophecy means. For instance, in the year 2000, I had a very strange message from this state of being in this zone. And the state was Al Gore is absolutely going to win by over 500,000 popular vote. And I feel that's absolutely true. And I'm also being told I will be absolutely wrong at the same time. And I asked even radio hosts, can you explain to me what that means? Because I don't get what that means.
Mm-hmm.
And it was up until 2000 that I discovered, because Gore won by 500,000 votes, but he was denied by the Supreme Court a decision, a recount in Florida, which probably would have had him win anyway.
Right.
The other thing, so I discovered then, I have not been predicting the winner of the elections. I've been predicting the winner of the popular vote. And because I'm empathic in my work, I tune in to the masses of people and individuals, and I see the majority will. The American people, by a majority, wanted Gore to be the president, as they did Hillary Clinton. But I will also add, I predict the percentage of the difference of popular vote also accurately 13 times in a row. Wow. And Hillary Clinton did come in around a little over 2% difference between Donald Trump. But at the same time, there's only 2 times in the 13 years that I've done this that I have had a caveat. And that is with Hillary Clinton is the one that's given me the caveat twice. She would. Yeah, well, she basically is a terrible campaigner. And it's not the Russians' fault. In fact, that's one of my more recent predictions that's getting accurately proven. I said months ago that the Russian hack thing, I tune into it, is a pure hoax. It's a projection of CNN and other places. And oh God, I got savaged by readers and people about that who don't want to hear that. That's an occupational hazard. I accept it. But the truth is now that now it's out. It's out, and so yes, it is hogwash. Yeah. So,
when you saw that, were you like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy"?
So it's hogwash, and even today, New York Times had to retract its famous 17 security departments of the government have been there and saying that this is all true, and even Hillary Clinton was hitting Trump in the debates about that, and the fact is that only 4 said it was true. And the little New York Times had to go,
I know, right?
And so there's this. So, I just wait, and it's always interesting. The people that savage me the most, if they magically turn into crickets. I hear it.
Turtles, I call them.
Yeah, so the crickets are back again. Anyway, the thing is that at the time I was seeing Hillary Clinton, I said it in an article which is published at HOGUEProphecy.com on 2nd of March, 2007, almost a whole year before the primaries would begin. I stated, I see Hillary Clinton's albatross hung around her neck, and that is her inability to explain to the anti-war movement in the Democratic Party why she voted for going into the war with Iraq in October 2002, when it really wasn't There was a lot of evidence to show there were no weapons of mass destruction, but she just marched right in with hardly a thought. And basically I said if she couldn't explain that or apologize for that, that would give what I thought then would be Barack Obama would be her #1 nemesis, and they'd have a really tight election and he'd win by a small margin. Even though I predicted she would get more of the actual votes in the primary, he did actually play the caucuses better. She got 148,000 more votes than he did, but she didn't play the caucuses as well as he did. And so it happened. So I said, okay, she has one last chance, 2016. I thought that it would be probably between Bush, Jeb, and her. But then this Trump guy comes into the frame. And this is an odd thing, Heidi, because odd things guide me to do stuff that I go, why am I doing this? There must be a reason, so I trust it. I've been actually watching the progress of Donald J. Trump since 1992. And I didn't know why. I mean, other than he's very entertaining, kind of
yeah, right.
He's Dennis the Menace, on Trump Tower. So,
yeah.
But I started watching him. I thought it was very interesting how he managed to get himself out of the hole that he put himself in with all those casinos in New Jersey. And then there was the recession in the real estate market in New York. And then he somehow got himself out of that and then turned his corporation down into a much more profitable international corporation after that. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to watch this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He keeps talking about running for president. I kind of got this feeling, oh, no, it might happen. And then suddenly he declares himself, and I take a look at his astrology. And within 5 minutes, the spirit just said, look at this.
Yeah.
This man, he could be president of the United States. I was one of the first astrologers to say, look out. This guy is not kidding. And if you think he's a joke, you'll end up being the joke.
Yeah, it gave me chills because I remember hearing that. I remember seeing you say that on one of the shows. That was like.
And the other thing was, I was seeing how the Democratic Party were not taking seriously the anger and frustration of another part of America that they ever want to open to. And in my work, I talk to everybody. I look at the future in politics like somebody who's living a few hundred years in the future, looking back in our times as the past, and looking at a time where politics is no longer driven by ego, but driven by meditation and love, the interaction, the science of interacting with people, and where it will be a more meritocratic system beyond democracy, based on every stage of your ability to prove that you can vote and prove that you can be voted for, has to equally be shown that you have the love and wisdom. They will be able to test that because they will be wiser with it. So it's not the problem that meritocracy can be in our time. It's kind of, it can become a benevolent fascism. A meritocracy in the future will be based on love and meditation, and it will be a society that wants to help everyone find their destiny and find what makes them joyous and complete. So it's not like if you fail the test to vote, it's not like they're going to throw you in the garbage like they do here, because this is not a society that's based on love and meditation. It's based on Darwinistic animalism. It's like we're not quite human yet. And so, but when we are human, everyone will be loved. It'll be, the society is there to help everyone be the best they can be, all that they can be. And so, and that is a subject of one of my future books that in about a year I will write, called that looks at the next 1,000 years of 5 major political evolutions that will take us 5 steps beyond what we consider the end-all democracy. It's not even the beginning. It is, in the next 1,000 years, our political structures are going to be greatly changed than they are here and now. So
Interesting.
So the thing is, I see that Donald Trump, and I started writing the Hogue Prophecy Bulletin saying, if ever there was one person who will make my prediction of Hillary Clinton becoming president wrong, of the 17 people the 17 dwarfs with in the huge debates, the army of people, and some of them are like the kids in the table at Thanksgiving that can't be at the main table. They had their secondary debate. I mean, they were coming out of the woodwork. And here was Donald Trump in the middle, the tallest guy at 6'3", flanked by 6 of these guys or 7 of these guys. And I kept looking at him saying, you know what, this guy, if he can get through all the hoops. And in the book, Trump for President, Astrological Predictions, which I wrote in October of 2015 and published in December, the winter solstice in 2015, more than 6 weeks before the actual primaries began. I took people astrologically step by step, and even sometimes to the very days, like what happened on 23rd March with the wife bashing thing that he did. That would have been the day when he would do that, his afflicted Mercury would play around with his afflicted Jupiter, these funny things to kind of the kid being a nasty kid. But you know, I also in that book I made a lot of comparisons to another interesting controversial Gemini in history, and that was Richard Wagner. A lot of people can't get so the book is really a study and a journey into the wonderful world of Geminis. Now, I've had a Gemini lover, and my beloved older brother's a Gemini, so I dedicated it to them, this book.
Oh, interesting.
And one person to fall in love with a whole crowd of people. And so
I love Geminis. All my astrology teachers and everybody is Geminis too. That's really funny you say that.
Well, the thing is about Geminis is they're notorious trash talkers. And that helps them kind of put it all out there in a social thing. And they need to do like what the wonderful line from Dangerous Method, where Fassbender playing Carl Gustav Jung says to Keira Knightley, sometimes one has to do something absolutely terrible to go on living. But I mean, Wagner used to say in his letters, sometimes I need to dive into my devilishness so I can find the angel.
Yeah.
I don't think Trump is as conscious or self-reflective as Wagner was about that. But I mean, Wagner's trash talking about the Jews, which got him in a lot of trouble to this day. And unfortunately was what got one authentic anti-Semite, Adolf Hitler, very much in love with his music. But for more reasons than that. The thing is that so many people have this mindset of binary. It's 1 or 0. I like them. I don't like them.
Right.
You're great. You're terrible. I get that all the time.
That's the problem.
Yeah. And so, but I'm saying, but don't you understand that you are blocking yourself because of Wagner's stupid diatribe, Judaism and music, and that Hitler liked his music. Well, Hitler had good taste in music. Even evil people have good taste sometimes. And he was tapped into the orgasmic, that Wagner was really amazing, the whole orgiastic way of looking at life. And of course, that's a very powerful energy. You can tap into that very unconsciously, like Adolf Hitler did. So, because Wagner was like a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, music drama. So anyway, I say if you hitch on that binary problem and erase the man, whitewash the man as terrible, this, that, then you're not going to see the man. And this is so especially so when dealing with very, very powerful and influential Geminis that have influenced you artistically like Wagner, or influence your political future like Donald J. Trump. You need to understand it. This is a man with a sun sign, 22 degrees Gemini, with Uranus like a monkey on its back. You know, Mr. Chaos, Mr. Surprise, Surprise, Surprise. Mm-hmm. Mr. 180. If I saw him, I'd shake his hand. As President 180, it's so nice to see. Yeah. The man has many facets. And the problem is, and I have a new book out, an epic book called President Trump Predictions, which I hope to finish before he's impeached. Which
you think that's going to happen? I think I heard you say that.
It could. If he can survive the first 2 years, he could even be an 8-year president. But he's got to survive the first 2 years. The thing that I find intriguing is that all this attempt to impeach him on Russian hackings or collusion and stuff is just destroying the Democratic Party. I will say again that in the midterm, those 18 seats in the Senate that they hope are going to come their way, if the Democrats don't find a way to say this is what we're about rather than this is what we're against,
Yeah.
those seats are going to the Republicans, most of them. And the Democrats will just be a sideshow watching without any influence at all. In the new book, more than even in the first book, which is like the first book is like part one, part two, and the President Trump predictions, I had to find a way to get into this book because I thought, God, everything is. I live in a blue end of Whidbey Island, up in the Pacific Northwest, and you know it's literally divided. One half of it's red, and the other half. So I went to talk about my locality and the people, and every time I'd walk down into town, everybody's grabbing me saying, John, what's going to happen? You know, and then of course, if what I didn't tell them was what they wanted to hear, they suddenly murder the messenger, you know. And then I'd say, well, you know, just don't hurt the guy holding the mirror. Just look at the mirror. And so I realized that this book's going to be a therapy session for a lot of people on both sides. The people that blindly hope that Donald Trump is going to make the cows come home and the Chinese jobs come back and you know, Medicare better and healthcare better. And those people who are not my president. Well, he is your president.
Number, what do they call him by his number? Like they won't even say his name.
Yeah.
They call him 45. So I was like,
yeah. And my response to that is that's deep sixing the Democratic Party. That is 86ing the Democratic Party. What the Democratic Party needs to do is make this a debate of ideas.
Yeah. And
to actually come in and say, okay, because this is coming back to why I've been watching this man for so many years. Now he's president. It's now understood by me that I have an intimate understanding of everything he said, what he wrote. I read his books. Mm-hmm. I've read The Art of the Deal. Mm-hmm. I've seen him in his worst and best times. I've watched Celebrity Apprentice, all some seasons. And I have, what I usually do is cut to the boardroom at the end because, you know, I watched how he would do that stuff. And I just feel that I'm often talking with people, even big people in the news agency, who clearly have not read The Art of the Deal, mm-hmm. have not followed the situation like I have. So when they say, well, he said this and that, and I said, well, like people say, well, he's like he's a 14-year-old. And I went, no, he's an 8-year-old. Oh, I never thought of that. Guess who told me that? Who? Donald Trump. I saw him on camera one time very innocently, because he is actually quite an innocent man underneath a lot of those personalities. He said, you know, when I think about it, I'm still just that 8-year-old child. You know, I haven't changed much at all since I was 8 years old. And I would say to the Democrats, talk to the 8-year-old. Love the 8-year-old. If you abuse and hate and reject an 8-year-old, especially a precocious one, in a 71-year-old body, what do you think's going to happen? You don't need Nostradamus to tell you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And, you know, it's like what Buddha said, the truth is that which works. So, you know, the Russian hack thing's not working. And if you take him out, who steps in?
Yeah.
A extremely theocratic Christian fundamentalist. We've seen ISIS in the Middle East. We'll have to embrace Christus. And he will have the Republicans solidly behind him, and the Democrats will have worked so hard to actually burn another bridge where they'll be standing there going,
yeah.
I mean, you know, it's time for Democrats to face the loser mentality, because Trump's right. The party has turned into a bunch of losers. And in the book, I don't mean that as a put down. I mean that as face it so that you become winners.
Right. And because you've been, I think you and I we're pretty open, and, you know, we are very open with opinions and listen to everything. It sounds like I just know from your chart too. Okay, so we're gonna
That's
be.
only half the charts.
I did them all.
Oh,
I did
good.
both ways too. I have them all, 6 ways. Your
All
your ways and Vedic ways. But
right. Okay, good.
in your new birthday. So
Ah, good. I'd love to see that.
yeah, no, it's funny. And we're very open, and we're we just kind of want everybody to get along. We're really musical, and we're really loving. And I think the hardest thing is for us to see is it's just stressful when everybody's fighting, because it's like, freaking relax, I mean,
It doesn't work.
it's not doing anything, it's not helping. And John, some of the things that are also, I think, are so fascinating about you is your music talents. You were an opera singer. When I heard these things, I was just like, makes sense. Doesn't surprise. But you're
It's a
just
radio voice.
because I do love your voice. Like I listened to your, and then I saw you on Gaia, and
Oh, yes. Good interview.
yes, and because I just have that app now. And I love that app. And you popped up, and I was like, "No way!" I was so excited.
I'm wearing the same Nostradamus shirt.
And then what's really funny? I even saw that people have think you actually really are Nostradamus reincarnated, because I see his birth chart compared with yours, and it cracks me up. I think you could be. I think so.
Reincarnation is a major subplot in a planned fiction book I have that's set 1 million years from now, and also some other planned books that look at it. I've had a lot of very fascinating journeys with reincarnation in that I found over a 10-year period a minor historical figure that fortunately you could find evidence. I had experiences during a rebirthing session where I basically lived this man's life and his death on a battlefield in 1812 as a French cavalry general, minor general of some corps of cavalry of Napoleon Bonaparte there. And
Wow.
so,
Is that what you meant when
I died? I yelled "Bull feu" when the artillery splinter hit me, and all the cuirassier guys were looking, and I was on the ridge, and I looked and I said, "Bull feu!" Good shot to the Russian redoubt, and then I fell off my horse.
And that was this life, right? You're saying you had this experience?
Yes, in this life I had this experience of this, and I also started seeing things and recording. So I started recording all the things that I saw about this man to test it, because that's the thing that's so difficult in documenting reincarnation. Otherwise, if you can't have, that's why if you have been some kind of famous person, you can actually check things, or that you can utilize that possibility if it's true.
Yeah.
And so for 10 years, I looked at stuff, and long story short, I felt, well, I know exactly how I look. I look exactly as I do now, only I had my thin jaw with a wax mustache, curly black ringlet hair, and big mutton chops, and a tuft of hair, a little point under my beard, which I thought, well, that breaks the possibility, because that was a fashion that didn't happen until 30, 40 years after the Napoleonic Wars. So I thought, that can't be true, but that's a good one to test, because nobody else would have. I never saw anybody with a tuft, any marshal or colonel or whatever. So the day that I was getting ready to go to India, and I was surrendering up the last of my 2,000 book library to just get the money. And the last thing I let go of was my Napoleonic books, because I'd been writing a novel on Napoleon and his invasion of Russia. Interestingly enough, became a diary that on the 7th of September, from 25th of June to the 7th of September, it's a very detailed, chillingly detailed look at everything there. And then suddenly I could never write beyond that. And so I thought, okay, I just need a break, because it's right at the morning of the Battle of Borodino, the worst battle in the history of 19th century, 70,000 casualties in 3 square miles and 12 hours of fighting. It was an absolute massacre for both sides, and immortalized by Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. And so I didn't know then, that because it was years later that I had the therapy, that I couldn't write about it, because I died. I died in that battle. And so no matter how much I tried to get back in, I studied 250 books to get the historical novel background. and I just could not get back to it. So I threw it away. And the whole book, all 650 pages of it, and went on to India, and met my teacher, my meditation teacher, Osho, Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh, and then got the name Swami Dhyana Arjuna, which is my sannyas name, my disciple name, which means meditation innocence. And so,
I could ask you so many questions. I could sit here with you all day.
I'll cut to the chase on this one. So basically, I knew that the final thing to prove, if I was actually, I thought that I might have been this Louis Pierre Montbrun, who was the commander of the 12th Cavalry, who died very similar way, said good shot, did all that, and I thought, okay, I'm onto something here. If this was me, I got to find his portrait. And so that's a very hard thing to do. But just there, when I was giving up all these final books, there was this huge volume of the 1809 campaign, all illustrated, all these, it was in French, and it was a remarkable book. And it had, like, down to colonels, all the portraits of everybody. And I thought, okay, I know this guy distinguished himself at the end, commanding the light cavalry, capturing about 20,000 Austrians. And I said, he's going to be at the end. So I turned the pages, and then finally I turned the page, and there I am. The tuft of hair,
wow,
the mustache, the ringlets, my same kind of scorpionic, massive, fatty, muscular body. God help those poor lighter horses. And there I am. And I go, and so the moment I'm looking at that, I'm going, yes, that's me. 10 years I've been looking, and I said, yep, that's who I was. And at the same time, I felt I have never been that man. Both, it's a paradox.
mm-hmm.
I feel sometimes that we die only once, and we seem to do it uniquely 1,000,000 times over.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time.
Yeah.
And so a lot of my writing is going to move deeper into that, and also deeper into the if I were Nostradamus, I am no longer that person. I'm somebody new, but that doesn't mean I wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I get it. Interesting.
Yeah. It's we are new. Every life. Half the world believes in one life, and they're right. There is only one life. You will only be this person once. The other half of the world says we may live millions of lives. They're also right. The mystery of what we are, the witness of this mystery, is that which consciously watches the meeting of this paradox in so many infinite ways in our life, where the opposites become complementaries, where the contradictions become oneness, where the fact that I could be Nostradamus in a past life and never have been Nostradamus, and they're both right and true. Mm-hmm. That is mystery that, as I go deeper and deeper into it, I become less and less knowledgeable about what it is, but more and more intimately enfolded in it. And not much more I can say about that.
Wow. Well, and I don't want to take too much of your time, I know, and I could talk to you all day long, but
we'll keep going, because I'm at fault for. We'll just keep going.
No. Okay, because do you just tell me if you have to go? Seriously.
Yeah. Well, let's keep going, because it's my responsibility too. I'm doing my.
No, but I love this. Like, this is what it's good. I want to, and I think, because I know a side of meditation of you too, and I see that and you've said things to me that really related, like the whole, when you meditate, you got to meditate a certain way, not a certain way, like kind of which way is for you. And that, and I know you're really into that. And if you knew how I meditated, which I'm not going to even say it on here, you wouldn't be surprised, but I'll leave it at that. So we have a lot of the same, I think, like the whole tantric thing and all that kind of stuff. That's very one of our, I can tell just from hearing you talk about certain things that you're interested in that. And
yes.
And that's sometimes, I think, the best things, to sometimes get away from all the craziness here, just to be in that zone, because it can be so dark here, the real life. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are that are that which wander and float around me, and sometimes I use them I just see them neither for nor against them. And then when they trigger even deeper things like emotions and moods, a little more challenging to look at them. But they also pass like clouds in the sky that's always constantly infinite. And if I were to use words to describe what is impossible for words to describe, because anything higher than a thing cannot be described by the lower.
Yeah.
Just like if I'm talking to somebody who's never seen the world other than black and white, then I talk about color. If they're in their ego with it, rather than open to the possibility, they'll just say, oh, there's no such thing as color. You're just full of it. And then I go, what a shame. This is how we build our isolation cages of mind and time and ego. And we all do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is that as I go deeper into meditation, I find that I am everybody else. You know, when I point out a fault or something, it's not from I'm better than anybody. I am everybody. So it's not it just becomes, and then what comes with that is a deep compassion. That I'm in an Enneagram, I'm an anger type. I think it's 7. So you know, I've had to move from anger to compassion, and that is the other side of anger, is compassion. So you know, I've been telling a lot of my readers to do pillow beating. That, you know, put Trump as a pillow, maybe put a blonde wig on it or something, and then take the other pillow and beat it. At first you feel kind of silly. You're there all alone in your room beating. You think, oh, I'm being ridiculous, but just stay with it. Just act. And then suddenly you're going to feel something in your heart that's going to go, and you're going to really be murdering that pillow. And that's wonderful. It's okay to murder pillows. And you can murder a pillow with as much power that you can murder a real human being, but without the karma. Because these things must be expressed. I mean, Madonna wants to blow up the White House. I understand that. But Madonna dumping that garbage on national TV and saying F-bombs with all those little kids in the crowd, there's a wrong place to let go of your catharsis. Like dumping that murderous rage on some other human being. Are they going to act like a Buddha? No, you're going to trigger their murderous rage, and all you're doing is building and strengthening rage and discord and poisoning each other. But this must be expressed. And that's what I love about Osho's meditations, because a lot of them, like Dynamic and others, are very active meditations in their first stages, so that they bring you to a point where you exhaust all that, and then you stop. And that's and so I'm trying to help my readers with that.
Yeah.
Just that, because you know, this is disempowering you. Anger, you disempower yourself with anger. You bleed it out of your aura, and if the other doesn't pick it up, it's just like sitting there with a pathetic anger doll, you know, all broken in your lap and going wah, and
right. I mean, it is.
I do it, so I know. I'm speaking from experience.
Yeah, no, I know. I think I can definitely say the same thing. You know, you have a lot of anger, but I've turned it too to positive things and to compassion. I mean, that's kind of how I get through things. And I've got compassion with astrology. That's how I learned how to forgive people, was astrology. I'd be like, oh, it's in their chart. And then I got over it. And that sounds stupid, but that was some sort of, in a way, the way I kind of needed to understand it, because I needed to know why.
Buddha said, the truth is that which works. Siddhartha Gautama said that in 500 BC, and it's true now as it was 25 centuries ago. What the truth is that which works, and no, anything that's spouted off as truth that is causing anger, destruction, all, just no matter how much you paint lipstick on that pig, it's a pig.
Yeah,
You know, and you got to let the pig go back into the wallow hole and let him enjoy there, and then you move on.
yeah. And so you're writing a new, I saw you, so you're writing a book, Astrology Predictions, 2017, 2018. I probably should have said this first. And it's coming out soon, right? July, in the
Yes.
beginning of July, you said. Tell me about some of, you don't have to tell me all the tricks, but what are some bullets?
Well, what I did is I've done astrology books before the more traditional way from New Year's to New Year's, but I thought this one would be a vernal year. They would start the way I foresee the future. People will have more of a neo-pagan renaissance. They will go back to having the new year when flowers and life and trees start blooming again, when baby animals start happening again. It's like the earth is telling us when the new year begins. And so I started with this book starting with March 20th of 2017 to March 20th of 2018. And I call it John Hogue's Worldwide Astrological Predictions for the Real New Year. And it's spring 2017, spring 2018. Now it's coming out a little late because I just finished a 16-year process of being a caregiver to my mother, who died almost a year ago, very blissfully and ecstatically on the 15th of July. Literally, that is a whole story which I'm going to write in a book called The Dancer and the Master, because she used to be an MGM dancer in the golden ages of that, and she worked with she was propositioned by Errol Flynn. She worked with Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. She was one of the water ballerinas in the Esther Williams water ballets.
Wow.
And so here's this person from the so-called greatest generation who does all that, becomes a homemaker, has two children, has a difficult husband-wife relationship, and then eventually I go off to India and I bring back the Buddha disease. And she then later went on her own. And because she was kind of like a soulmate to me. It's funny, you don't always choose how you get your soulmates in your life, and sometimes they're your sister, your brother, your lover, but here they are. And if you just surrender to the reality, you realize. And so I took care of her, and we were very, very close. And when she died ecstatically. And the caregiving, so it's a story about caregiving too, and how it got to a point where I just could not manage to keep ahead of it. And so I'm about 3 books behind schedule.
Wow.
And the astrology book is the first of 3. The Trump book is next, President Trump predictions. Yeah. And then this magnum opus that people have been waiting for so long that I had to change the years on it, is what I do is a biannual prediction book of just events. And that's called Predictions 2017-2018, Years of Crisis and Breakthrough. And that I hope to have out before the eclipse on the 21st of August. But if not, such is the case. Anyway, so the vernal year, I had to change. The first half is kind of establishing the important patterns. Fortunately for me, the really interesting stuff that's happening in this period of 12 months between the 2 springs is really happening starting in July. So some of the things that were happening with the Jupiter squares in spring and were things that I could establish, so I could really set up for the Jupiter sextiles that are coming later in December through April, which I call the last chance sextiles, the positive possibilities of reform, of breaking the shell of old think and dogma. And it can be painful. The shell doesn't want to die, and it resists, but the flowers must grow. The baby must come out of the womb. And so what is significantly happening? So what I did is I try to do every day with all the significant, mostly outer planet issues to world politics and stuff. So every election that was happening, I predict that's going to be happening in a 2-year period. I had to. So it's basically fortunately, I was right about what happened with what I called it Matilda May's second Brexit. Only unfortunately, she really screwed it up with that, and it was but that prediction I put out before it happened, and so I'm then would assess, well, what's going to then happen in the next several months or year to the Conservative Party? Will they stay in office? Will Jeremy Corbyn actually make a Faustian pact with the Scottish National Party that could not only lead to a Brexit between the EU and United Kingdom, but the end of the United Kingdom by 2020, as Scotland and North Ireland and Wales might actually leave, and the Union Jack will go down like the red banner of the Soviet Union was pulled down in the end of 1991, and will come up again, will be the white flag with the red cross of St. George. So I talk about this 57th British Parliament may be the last, and it'll be called the English Parliament after that. And many other things that are going on with the breakup of nations and things. So, but the really important thing that's happening is a repeat of an important reference in Nostradamus about Saturn and Mars being equally fiery at a very peak of a hot, the locale where this happens is a hot, drought-ridden region. And from the indications of it, it's the Middle East. And it came in 2016 from, I think, from memory, around August through September. And then it comes again, not with them equally, planets of Mars and Saturn being equally fiery in one sign, but equally fiery in fire signs, which surprisingly is not that often because Saturn takes it 29, 30 years time to do its cycles around the sun. And Saturn, the last time it did that, gave birth to Al-Qaeda and the religious right. So unfortunately, so many things in political astrology, because you're dealing with the least conscious level of humanity, the mass, where the consciousness is spread micron thin across the whole mass, which is prone to hysteria and prone to, Hitler was right. If you want to sway the masses, he used to say in Mein Kampf, just treat them like a hysterical woman. Now, all emotion, no details, simple slogans. Unfortunately, for most people don't know this, they should, especially politicians. Adolf Hitler was the father of modern political campaigning. Everybody who campaigns, no matter whether it's the right or the left, can go retreat back through time and see the guy who did it first, the multiple flying from one city to another to speak. Hitler was the first one to do that. The idea of make America great again, yes we can, these change we can believe in, these wonderful slogans that emotionally stir us because they actually say nothing at all. They're like empty phrases that work like reflective mirrors where we can project what we think change that I believe in is going to be, and think that what Obama thinks that means,
right,
or what Hitler meant by Deutschland erwache, Germany awake. Well, awaken from what and whom is going to be awake? Or change we can believe in. Well, okay, change is neutral. It can be a bad change. And belief is another way of saying, I stand on qualified ignorance. I don't know. I believe this is true.
Mm-hmm.
I have blind faith that it's true. I've surrendered my intelligence to investigate or have the same experience myself. Buddha may have been enlightened. Jesus Christ might have been the Son of God. But unless I tap into that experience of myself and become a son or a daughter of God, it's just some BS story.
The story.
It could be not. But one of the great reasons why the world is suffering so much is the organized religions that are built around these people once these living beings are gone are built on their unenlightened misunderstanding of what these people were and said. And then they become big business, and then they become politicized. The difference between a cult And a religion, in my view, is the religion, the cult that has suddenly political power becomes a religion. When Constantine gave the Christians the political power of being a legal religion in the Roman Empire, that was the moment the Christian cult became a Christian religion. And nothing had changed in the teaching. It's just, it was looked at in a different way because it had power. So it has nothing to do with the truth or love. It has something to do with becoming powerful, political. And so that's the thing that causes a lot of misery. The very things that are there saying they're there to help us are the things that are retarding us from our spiritual growth.
Yeah.
And Osho used to say, when the religions fade away and man and woman is completely free, that is the time when they will become truly religious. Just simply religious, not believing, but knowing from their own experience and embracing and celebrating what they do not know. That knowing as well. So that is the future of Homo Novus, the new man, which is a theme in prophecy that does not get enough attention. I will give it very much attention in the next 3 years, writing 3 books on the stages in which the new humanity that's in the future is actually born right here, right now, with just you.
That's amazing. And what else did I want to ask you? Oh, when you said the Saturn Mars things in the fire sign, you said that, and what I went and looked Vedic way too, and I saw some heavy energy. Saturn, Mars are back together in Sag per Vedic astrology, right? So because we're using the sidereal zodiac,
Right.
That's happening next year, March, end of March and April with Pluto. So
yes. It's also in the. That's also in the. I also talk about that in my book in the Placidus.
okay, got it.
There too, yeah.
So yeah, it's funny because however you find astrology, you find it and you use it. I use it like you. I mean, I have my own way, and when I read people's charts, because that's my favorite thing to do is do people's charts. I get into a zone, and a lot of it is just like I just look at a thing and know what techniques. I think sometimes that's a great point that you say, because there's a big battle right now in the astrology world over zodiacs, like.
Ophiuchus.
It's almost as bad, I'm not joking, as the election thing. Like it's getting ugly, okay? And over sidereal, and they want to have debates, and they want to have this, and I'm like, who really cares? I mean, whoever you use Western, use Western. Use Vedic, use Vedic. You want to know both? Know them both.
Well, Heidi, the way I answer all of that is that sidereal to Placidus to Vedic are all different dialects of what I call not a science, but a poetry. A poetry that uses the language of stars to trigger a divination understanding. For me, astrology is not a science. It is a poetry. It is a subjective journey. And I would also say from the Vedic astrologers that I knew when I lived in India with my teacher, they taught me how less is more. Don't fill your chart full of every moving rock in the solar system. They didn't even use things beyond Saturn. Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are not even in the charts.
Yeah.
I have never encountered more accurate astrological forecasts than from the Vedic astrologers I knew in India.
Interesting.
But I use Placidus because of the connection with Nostradamus.
I see.
And that dialogue, that dialect, and I also added I will go as far, because I like to kind of be balanced. I use Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but none of the astrological rocks or Charon and all of that.
Right.
It's just noise. In my experience, it's just noise. Because you don't need more, you need less. Because if you use less but use it deeply, you gain more divination insight. So I don't think people who are having these arguments who are so lost into their science of astrology, whatever way they like to do it, will ever understand me. And that's
Or
fine.
me. I know. I
Yeah.
feel the same way. But I think that's why it's a good way to be, because you don't get mad. And once again, it's putting you back into that zone where you just don't get too stressed out about, like, the same thing with the election. You just gotta, you're able to just still live your life, because some people get so focused on drama, whether it be in their life at all. I mean, it's sad, actually.
And that is one of the probably mistakes that people make with astrology, at least from my experience. Astrology is not going to tell you what your soul is all about, in my experience. It will tell you what your body-mind potentials are, the vehicle of your soul.
Yeah.
And the difference is that, you've seen my birth chart. I've come through experiencing all of that super big square I have in there, with the ascendant, Scorpio, Venus, and the ascendant and Saturn all conjoined in the 12th house in a 20-degree midheaven Jupiter, I think, and Pluto, not Jupiter,
I don't
midheaven.
use any of those
Pluto.
squares or anything. That's funny.
And that's kind of a square if your soul is not somewhat developed and been around. I wouldn't have made it for after 21 years old.
Yeah,
right?
right?
It was, and that's the interesting thing. I found that a lot of people, I have a whole positive view about squares that drives people crazy. I really see them as more valuable than trines in a lot of ways, but that comes from the point of view, which I clearly give my readers, of being here in this mystery to learn, to not be lost on the wheel, the same old desires again and again and again. One thing that seeing that you may have been famous people before is that you are fortunate enough to find everything that you wrote or everything that people wrote about you. And you suddenly find the possibility that even as much as you love Jewish people and had Jewish lovers and friends in this life, you were an anti-Semite in your last life. So, and the Zionist who is in this life, in the next life, might be killing Jews. It is the eternity that, Osho once said in the last discourse he ever gave in Zen Manifesto. He said something which filled all the gaps to what I was looking for in reincarnation mystery. He said, really, actually, truth never reincarnates. Truth is already truth. So what is reincarnating are bundles of, some people bundle together their same collection of emotions and mind, and they put it into another womb. Sometimes people take pieces of blown out other emotions in mind and put them into another womb. Yeah. But the truth is not that thing which is reincarnating is not ever going to be the truth. That personality that's trying to do better and be better and do all the good karma against the bad karma is a mouse in the wheel, Yeah. And the rungs, every rung that you go higher and higher is the rungs that are your hind feet pushing away, and it comes back again. Oh, there it is. I'm going higher and higher, but you're just standing still. And meditation, or the soul in us, begins to step back from that, or relax back from that, and just see the movie. And you can't change the movie, because the movie changer, the actor, the doer, is the mind. It's the body, mind, and time. And the experience of the glimpses that I've had of something that's not body, mind, time is timeless. Eternity exists in now. It never exists. It doesn't exist in time. I'm seeing more and more that seems to be the case. And if that witness then becomes like a mirror watching the movie, neither for nor against what it reflects, at a certain point, the movie gets quieter and quieter, and then the mirror seeing itself. And there's moments when the mirror sees itself where suddenly everything is exactly as it should be, and is not being at the same time. And my mother's death, I have had so many things change in the realm of inner meditation. And it has changed my writing. It has changed everything.
Wow.
So so I'm not so caught up in identification anymore, and that just brings one back to a childlike, innocent intelligence. And that's in Trump. That innocent 8-year-old is what is the person I want to speak to in this new second book about him,
Yeah.
and help other people find a way to speak to that child. Because I can tell stories, and I will tell stories in this book from people I knew who've seen the other side of him. What a loving father he is. How much he cares for people. How he's actually quite humbled by things.
Didn't you say that in a show that about the person that worked in his
Yes.
that
Yes.
that's important. People don't know that, that he was like, how are you doing? And gave her money or
Yeah,
whatever.
her son was sick, and he was trying to not be hurt. He pulled, like, if he's the big narcissist everybody thinks he always is, and he is that, but not, he's
Yeah.
Gemini, not always, not
Right.
always.
Right.
Um, he pulled her aside, and the person who heard this at Mar-a-Lago at the was listened to it, and because it reverbed in such a way that she could hear everything.
And it was a woman too,
Yeah, and it
right?
was one of his main overseers for setting up the banquet, and he was like, "How is your son? How is he doing? What's the status?" And she told him, "He says, look, anything I can do to help you, just ask, okay? Just
Yeah.
hold, touching her shoulder, just." uh, The man is actually with that big Leo rising, with a Mars in the 12th house anchored to it, a couple of degrees off, and with all the things that are going to happen when the eclipse happens to his personal chart. I think it's a life-changing moment for him in August and the months that follow. It could be the opportunity for him, and of course he may not succeed with this, but there's an opportunity for Donald J. Trump to have personal tragedy or national tragedy, a string of them, actually bring him into, they used to say presidents aren't great, they're made great by great trials. He's going to have one. It starts, really for him, it starts at the end of July, and it will be the most challenging time of his life. um, I'm always confident that Donald Trump will always surprise me because of the Uranus on his back,
Mhm.
which is opposed to his Sagittarius moon, when the
Guess what
moon
his
is.
moon is in Vedic? Scorpio.
Yeah, well, that that makes sense. I like that dialogue change. I mean, sidereally, I'm a Libra with Scorpio rising, double Scorpio, and I say, yeah, there's a lot of me being even this, even that, trying to find both sides of things.
Oh yeah, I see
You
that.
haven't got the
See, I
Libra
totally
side.
see your chart Vedic way, but I see it the other way too. But it's funny, like the funny thing about you and I is we have Mars and Venus in Hasta. I use these nakshatras, 27 nakshatras. Your Mars is on my Venus exactly, and same degree in Hasta. It's Hasta is the nakshatra,
Yeah,
and we have our moons are both in Revati, which that's the last nakshatra, 27th nakshatra, which is why my channel is named Channel 27. Get it?
okay.
And
Numbers are words.
have the same. Yeah, and then you have your Rahu and Kate, our Rahu K2, the North Node, South Node, are in both in Jesta nakshatra, very close. So we definitely we knew each other from a past life, I'm sure at some point.
Yeah,
But yeah, so it's funny because you'll be drawn to teachers and people and whoever, everybody that there have been very few people that I've actually that haven't been just astrologers, because you did astrology, but you're an author, prophecies and meditation, and there's very few of those that I follow, right? So because I find that there's a lot of fake ones too, just a
yeah,
lot of, like, at least with astrology, it's in the software. I like that about software, but with you, I always felt like, no, you knew, like, you just were on you thought how I thought, and I just felt like, and it's in the charts totally why. It's just kind of funny. But so I don't know. It's pretty interesting, and I'm excited to I'm excited to get this book. So everybody has to get all of your books. You've wrote only what, 50 of them, and you've sold 1 million of them. I heard, right?
Yeah, I think 1,170,000 in 20 languages. I'm working on. I've lost count. I think I'm working on number 43 now, and I have 3 of them in process. Actually, 4. I keep forgetting that I have to write. I have to sit down and just blast off 16,000 word booklet on a book that will be out this month called the Great American Eclipse, Earthquake, and Tsunami.
That you just read my mind, because that's the one more thing I wanted to ask you was, do you see anything crazy with weather coming?
Oh yes,
Like, do we need to move? Do I need to move away from Maryland?
Where are you in what? Well, are you close to? How close are you to the Potomac and Washington D.C.?
I live on the bay, the Chesapeake Bay.
Okay.
So I better move.
So you're not in Delaware, you're in Maryland, so you're east facing Chesapeake.
Yeah, do you know where the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is, the 5-mile bridge?
I didn't want to tell people where you live, so
yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm right on it.
Okay. Well, I've always had a sense, and in several books I've talked about. I mean, I once was on Hannity and Combs on 31st of December 1999, and Alan Combs, who was a wonderful guy, recently passed, didn't have much to say on that show. It was mostly just me and Sean, and it was about global warming and the future of things like that. And I was thinking, I'm actually having a good talk with this scientist. Here's the woo-woo guy and the scientist, and it's actually working out pretty well. And I'm seeing Sean kind of fidgeting, and so, oh, here it comes. I'm going to get nailed. And suddenly he said, well, Mr. Hogue, it's just like, you're talking about doom, boom. Because what I had just said was, in the 5th season of the new century, hurricane season, either New Orleans or Miami will be hit by one of the first globally warmed hurricanes, super hurricanes. And so that pushed his button. And he says, because it scared him. And he's saying, well, Mr. Hogue, you talk about doom and gloom. And and I go, only, he said. And I said, no. I just did a one, which is like, screech of the brakes.
Yeah.
Worst thing that can do to a host. And then he kind of went, well, you say this and then, and I went, have you read my book? And the book was 1,000 for 2,000 Startling Predictions for the New Millennium. For anyway, I forget the publisher. It doesn't matter anywhere. They're all gone, except Amazon. And so anyway, he said, I said, well, those people have read the book know that half the predictions are the doomsday scenarios, and half the predictions talk about an alternative future.
Yeah.
And he kind of went, well, yeah, that's right. You did. So let's go to commercial. And I get a call from the producer. And I'm still like unplugging in Fisher Broadcasting in Seattle. I'm unplugging, getting in the little black eye that had millions of people in it as the red light went off. And then this phone rings, and I think, hi, it's very conspiratorial. Hi, I'm the producer of the Hannity Show. I went, yeah, I just want to tell you that we just love what you just did because he never gets flustered. So that was funny. But so anyway, what did happen though is in the 5th season, 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. And
do you think that was man-made? I gotta ask. I have all my people come from a conspiracy channel, so I hear it. So I gotta ask. Do you think it was government produced? I've heard that. I never heard that before.
No. It was yes. They built a levee. No, somebody didn't open it up. Yes, it was their levee, which was built wrong. No, somebody didn't get the St. Bernard areas and the other areas flooded. Yes, human beings have been destroying the Delta to the point where all the swamps and stuff that could have absorbed a lot of those hurricane forces were gone. No, it wasn't a conspiracy to destroy New Orleans. I'm often debunking, chemtrails and HARP
Really? Oh my
and
gosh.
one of the most
I would love to do another show on that.
and also the factor that yes, the two towers did explode. There was definitely evidence of that. Yes, you could hear the boom, boom, booms. No, it wasn't, because I used to work in construction. I know what it takes to wire an already pre-existing building. And no, they wouldn't have wired it in 1970s because the dynamite would have been old and it probably wouldn't have blown up. I mean, people base their conspiracy theories on a lack of knowledge, on no understanding of investigative inquiry, which is a really lost art in our country right now. Especially in CNN, Fox, MSNBC, and a lot of the networks. I mean, I have the places where I can still get old news where both sides are looked at and skeptical inquiry is alive and well is Russia Today. No wonder the State Department doesn't like it. The American Bureau of Russia Today is a fantastic channel, and I've been vetting them for 4 years, and they remind me of the days of Edward R. Murrow and Walter Cronkite, which I am old enough to have remembered.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't know that they are.
Yeah. So the what happened is no one factored in, even the honest scientists who were just looking at it, they forgot to factor the aluminum of the two jets. And when both jets crashed, they stripped all the insulation and interiors, and literally when they were melting in the fuel of the jet fuel was just enough to start a fire as a catalyst. All that debris that was covering them pushed up against a solid acre-sized cement floor created an oven. And what it did is it melted the aluminum. And anybody knows a little bit about aluminum, when it's in a lava form, which you can see silver lava falling out of like some scene of a Ray Bradbury Martian Chronicles story, coming out just before everything exploded and fell. What happens when a lot of sprinklers, gallons and gallons and hundreds of gallons, thousands of gallons of water start pooling all through the floors, and you dump molten aluminum on it? It explodes more volatile than dynamite. And so when the lava was starting to come out of that oven, when it was finally cooked up, it blew those floors, and that started the acre-sized boom, 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 boom down of all the floors. And it is unique. But people look at something that's unique and they go, "Oh, there must be something other than what it is."
Yeah.
And the question I always say is be humble enough to say, I don't know what it is. I mean, one of the biggest problems with society is everybody, even we've all done it, where our boss or somebody says, were you listening to me? Oh, yes, I was, and you weren't. Do you understand? Yeah, I understand. Because what you're really saying is, I'm too afraid to say, could you?
No,
I don't
understand. Right.
Because then they will, and often will, and their ego will react and say, what, are you stupid or something? I said, and I got to a point where I just said, I don't care about that. I said, whether I'm stupid or not, the fact is I don't understand. And if you want things to work, you should help me understand. And I want to understand. So could you tell me again? Because I don't understand. I didn't hear you. What did you say? Mm-hmm. And I've done that since my 20s, and it has made life a lot more richer than trying to protect an ego that may not even exist. We feed it. Our souls feed our egos. It's a habit we're taught to coat personality over our. I mean, I was just reading something from Osho saying that one of the reasons why we usually don't remember any farther back than 3 or 4 years old is that before that we didn't have a personality. That was when we started to create the false persona of I'm John Hogue and you're Heidi and America. This is our religion. These are the things that make me happy. These are the things that make me sad. These are and all that stuff that builds up this false personality. It's completely obliterated by death. Meditation gets you back to the person you were before you were 3 years old. Mm-hmm. That intelligence, but it still uses your body mind.
Yeah.
and uses it much more efficiently and beautifully, because we're not wasting all this time on ego and protect and put on a false face, wag my tail to the boss, and and which wastes a lot of time and energy.
It's so true. It's so true. But I'll hit the end recording, but don't hang up yet. But I'm just going to hit stop record. But thank you so much for coming on here. I really do appreciate it. And hopefully we'll talk again soon.
I just want one last thing to say is that although the book is not out, this astrology book, I hope you'll all take a look at it, and that I'll be giving Heidi a link.
We'll stick at the bottom, all your links, all your websites and stuff.
Just the website, and just look out for it. And if you want, just talk with me at HOGUEprophecy.com if you want to be put on a notice list, and then I will personally notify you by email when the book is out.
Awesome.
That's talk with me, TALK, the 3 words, talk with me, all one word, at HOGUEprophecy.com. That's HOGUEprophecy.com.